Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome to our Friday night wow segment here with the Daughters of Esther. So, the Daughters of Esther, or DOE as we like to call it, is an organization developed to empower, uplift, and encourage. In a world that has been successful at keeping us focused on the negative, our goal here at DOE is to ensure that you remember that there is light at the end of the tunnel. We understand that there are layers to you and your healing. So, just like you, DOE is comprised of multiple layers. We have our online Instagram and Facebook page that provide uplifting and motivational quotes, pictures, and messages just to get you through the day. We have our moments of motivations, which are brief motivational messages. And we also plan on taking DOE out to the community when the summer starts to permit. Today, we bring you our Women of Wisdom segment, also known as WOW. These WOW segments are designed to evoke real conversation with real people, starting the process of real healing. We hope you will join us by sharing your thoughts, your story, ask your questions, because we want to make sure that you all know where we're coming from and we want to know where you're coming from. And you all can do this just by dropping your comments and your questions in the comment bar. We encourage you to share and subscribe via our Facebook and Instagram page at DOE Empower and revisit these messages every time you need to hear something. And you can also check on YouTube anytime at Daughters of Esther DOE. Now, tonight's WOW segment is actually going to be built around breaking the chains of generational curses. As you all know, we have been watching things transpire and go on. And how many times have we looked back and said, that's never going to happen to me, only to find out that we're not just repeating it, we're kind of repeating it with our own little twist, only never to breaking the cycle. So today we want to start and we want to motivate you and encourage you to better understand how you can be the person that stops the generational curse in your family. Now, I have some amazing panelists today. We are not looking to air out anybody's dirty laundry. I just want to put that out there, you all. But what we are looking to do is make sure that at the end of the day, you have found your strength and your path to get to the righteous land of healing, because that's all that God wants for us, is to be at peace. So I am excited to introduce our panelists today. I am actually going to start a little bit about myself. My name is Aisha Brooks. I am the founder of the Daughters of Esther's empowerment page and organization. And I am always looking to uplift, encourage, and motivate. And so I am just thankful that I have a plethora of friends and family who not only participate in the healing, but they assist me in finding topics. So I'm excited to get to know more about you and your background. I'm going to let Dominique tell us a little bit about herself. Dominique, give us a couple of minutes about who you are and what you do, and then our other panelists will join in.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Dominique, and I am a licensed clinical social worker and a drug counselor in the state of New York. And I'm also a licensed clinical social worker in the state of New Jersey. And so right now I provide trauma therapy to individuals who have experienced acute stress as well as any violent crimes. I also have a history working with a plethora of individuals, families, individuals who have been incarcerated. I have a long list and history of working with people in disenfranchised populations. So I'm looking forward to giving my expertise personally and professionally on today's topic.
Delonda, go ahead.
Hi, my name is Delonda McCullum. I am a mother, a wife, a mother of three. I have a 28, soon to be 18, and a 16-year-old. I'm a daughter, um, a sister, and friends to many. Um, some of my background is I have my own personal business. Uh, Me and my daughter, we work together hand in hand, just teaching my children the importance of owning your own business. But I also help other families with United Way with finding childcare, educating them on the how to walk through that whole process, as well as educating them on the importance of having a proper documentation, how to find the right child care center, and being that great advocate for their child.
Hi, everybody. I'm Arnesia Bush. I'm a certified licensed life coach. Been doing it for about 4 years now. This is my husband, elder, doctor, all of that. Um, we have two children. We've been married for going on 9 years this year, and I'm gonna let him tell a little bit about himself. So.
Good evening, everybody. You already know my name, so I am a Todd Bush. I'm Todd Bush, and I am a chaplain in the Georgia Army National Guard, proudly serving. And I've been in ministry for over 20 years, and I am privileged to be with you tonight.
For myself, Glenn Brooks, Senior, hence the name Senior, um, husband, father, son, and currently serving in the Army as a chaplain, as well as elder within my denomination, and just looking to see where I can just share some of my experiences uh, within this conversation tonight.
Thank you to each and every one of you. I've got to tell you all a little secret. I am actually married to Senior. So it doesn't say Senior Brooks, but I am actually married. I am the wife of Senior. One of the things that we're excited about, I will probably say it, I don't know how excited we are about it, but we are excited to just kind of give our input on things that we've had to endure, things that we've seen, and definitely just encourage people as they go through just some of the pitfalls, trials, and tribulations that we've counseled people through and that we've had to counsel ourselves through. So definitely wanted to point out you guys did not hear an echo. There are two Brookses on the live. So I need to ask the panel this, and you guys definitely, I know I'm probably going to get some great feedback from this, but I am curious to know at any given, someone can jump in. How have you seen the generational curses impact families? Oh, you know what? Let's do this. I'm going to ask you first. What is your definition of a generational curse? Because what I've recently found out is I understood generational curses to be one thing, and someone else told me theirs was something else, and I did not know that there was a different understanding. So, what is your understanding of what a generational curse is? And Dominique, I would love to start with you if that's okay, seeing that you're the licensed social worker, and get your input first, and I want everyone to jump in.
I would view it as the traditions, the culture from one, like basic definition from one generation to the next. So it's kind of those things that we keep a stronghold on. Well, I did it. My mom did this for me. Her mom did this for her, and so forth and so forth. And it becomes kind of a tradition, but not always a positive tradition. There can be maladaptive traditions. There can be adaptive ones. So the generational curses are those traditions that are maladaptive, that keep people in a cycle of violence, trauma, abuse that they really just have a difficult time getting out of.
I'm on mute.
Sometimes it's people who may not know that they are, that it is a stronghold or a what's the word you just said, something that came in the lineage. Some people think that's the norm. So some people may say, and if you point it out, some people be like, is that what that is? Yeah, you got to put a name to it. And if they don't know it, they just keep on living it and repeating it. Well, my mother had a child when she was 16, and then I had a child when I was 16, and then my daughter gonna have a child when she, and there's like, well, this is what always happened in our families. And sometimes if you look at history, back in the day, people used to get married very young. So you have to be able to identify, why did you have to feel that you got young so early? And then your daughter may not have gotten married but had a child very early. And so until people realize what that looks like, some people don't even identify it as, generational curses. They just say, no, that's just what our family do. This how we roll. And so for people in Christ, sometimes we look at it and it's like, no, that's a generational curse. We need to put a name to that and pray about it, and let's make some changes there.
I agree with both of the ladies. I agree with you both. For people that may not fully understand 100%, simplified, meaning a generational curse is nothing more than a bad habit that has just carried through every generation of your family. And what's so interesting is that I do believe that when people find out, like, this is not right, something's off, something's wrong with this situation, is when I do believe that the process begins. But the process cannot begin until there's identification.
All right. So I definitely agree with what's been said so far. And just my little 2 cents, I will say that when it comes to generational curses, honestly, it's twofold. There are generational curses that have been placed upon a lineage or bloodline, and then there are curses where it has been brought about based off of bad habits, traits, bad decision making, and it carries on through that bloodline. And there are so many examples we could even use and probably talk about later, but I believe it's twofold, brought upon and placed upon, because I believe that curses can be placed upon in a spiritual or theological aspect. It can be placed upon a particular family or group of people, tribe, or whatever have you. So that's my take on identifying generational curses.
And I would say I have to agree with everything that's been said so far. And I guess just add one thing to it is that the behaviors that we're speaking about, and Dominique, I liked what you said, those that are maladaptive. The thing is that these behaviors have become normalized.
Mm-hmm.
And everyone else can see it's a curse except that generation, except those that are in the midst of the curse. So it's like if you tell them there's a stop sign, they'll say, no, it's not. There is no stop sign there. I'm going to keep going. And it's not until they get into an accident do they ask, well, what happened? What went wrong? And it's like, we were trying to tell you the whole time. So it's those behaviors that are destructive, but it's been normalized to think that it's actually productive behavior.
So let me say this. I appreciate each and every one of you giving me your version and very similar versions. The reason why I thought that was an interesting question is when I had this conversation, I was very shocked to realize, and it was very informative and it was enlightening, that a curse is something you have to acknowledge first and foremost. You have to acknowledge that it's a curse. If not, you all are saying it is a tradition. It's something we're used to going through. We don't know that we're cursed because it's happened and it's normal for us. But just like you said, outside looking in, we can identify you're about to crash. And for that person, they don't get that. So now I want to ask, how have you seen curses impact families? Not just, listen, I've seen people that have, underage pregnancies. Like, how have you seen curses impact deep in the roots?
I mean, I would just speak on just what we've experienced and what we've already, pretty much noticed, that, generational curses can really impact families. Pretty much, it's the mindset of how you're raising your children, and then how you've been raised, and then how they've been raised, and then how you're going to raise your kids. It's like we do it, but we do it unknowingly. And, we don't recognize it until we realize that this is unhealthy. For example, I can just use as a generational curse, like as just based off of what I've experienced, is the amount of love being shown from, one generation to the next generation to the next generation. Like, my mother didn't necessarily, her mother didn't necessarily show her love in a very physical way. It was more so like, I'm taking care of you. And that's how she showed her love towards us. But once I started having children, I realized that this is something that I want to change. I don't want to just show my love to my children just by buying them stuff. I want to actually physically hold them, love them, touch them, kiss them, tell them that I love them. So once I realized that it was a problem, and when I realized how it affected me as an adult, I started to say, well, I don't want my children to have to go through what I went through. And it's merely just out of selflessness. I'm willing to make the sacrifice and become the curse breaker in order for my children to have better lives. But like, Senior said, if you're in it, you can't really see it. So it takes a strong person. It takes the chosen person to identify that there's a problem and there's a curse that needs to be broken. So it impacts families to the root, because when you start messing with the plan, when you start messing with what everybody is so used to, you become the bad guy. So you have to be prepared and be ready for whatever it is to come, after that. So, yeah.
My wife definitely spot on with what she said. I concur with that. What I will say as well, when it comes to family, it is so, how can I put it? You probably heard before in the past where somebody's grandmama or granddaddy said, to their children, oh, you're going to see it again in your kids. And when you have kids, you're going to see it again. You probably all heard that. And so don't beat them, because you're going to see it again, because that's how you was, and that's how they are probably going to be. And I actually see that in my children, especially my son. So I can't get too mad sometimes when he says or does certain things. So I say that to say that it is our responsibility when we become parents, being put in charge of someone else. And this is where we were failed based off of previous generations and generations and our ancestors. I don't want my son to walk in my same path. Even if it's a good path, I want to help him create his own. Because the thing about it is, some of my pathway, in my life, there are some misprints. There are some things that I shouldn't have done, or I shouldn't have said, just a lot, mistakes and different things like that. Some decisions that weren't right. And so I don't want to, especially if I see it, a lot of times we become oblivious, and just speaking as parents, because that's where it starts with families, mom and dad. A lot of times you turn a blind eye to it, and then sometimes we actually see it, but we don't know how to help correct that behavior. Mm-hmm. And it is our job, it's our obligation to help our children and their children create their own path, a better path than what we went down ourselves and where we currently are today. So it really plays a big important factor, because we can look around in the world today and see where things have gone wrong because someone didn't help correct somebody else's path. Their father or their mother failed them. And it's happening every day. And we sit and scratch our head, wondering why this is happening, why this person is shooting up this particular race, and why they're going to school angry and bullying other kids because mom and daddy's not showing them love, and they're talking down to them, saying that they'll never be anything. We don't know what children have, or even adult kids have come from and dealt with. And so it's just so important to pay attention to that.
I love that. I'm going to come back to something I just jotted down that I want to touch on. What about you three? I want to hear some of these brilliant minds, and I want you all out there watching us. I want you to tap in and just kind of give us some comments on what you think you've seen as far as how generational curses have impacted families, whether it's yours or someone else. But Dominique DeLonda Sr., what are your thoughts?
I definitely have seen generational curses perpetuate this cycle of self-destruction and this cycle of self-sabotage, which in and of itself then perpetuates, I was writing stuff down, the cycle of violence and disruption. So I worked a lot with individuals who had been incarcerated for decades, and a lot of them were men. And when they would come home, they would come to my office, and then we would talk. We would just be talking about surface level things, and then we would start getting into the deeper stuff. And patients would just like male grown men would just start bawling out, crying, and saying that they had never cried like this before. And then to leave my office and pretend like none of it happened, to see me walking down the hall was a little bit shameful for them because they had shown such like emotional expression. But all of that keep bottling in is what led to their incarcerations, you know, that anger expression. They didn't learn how to express their emotions healthily. So how I've seen it is just like it's this perpetuation of like, you're a man, you're supposed to act a certain way. And when you don't get any person who does not get to express their emotions healthily, they do end up doing things that are self-destructive. And so it becomes a cycle. So when you teach your sons or your daughters to act in one way and they don't get to have their emotional, like their minds, they have their voice, they don't get to express it, then what that eventually leads to is just this cycle of, well, I don't know how to communicate. And it's poor communication. It's this false sense of communication. Another thing I see a lot of people do is, oh, I don't care. Their favorite line is I don't care. But it's like when I tap into that, I'm like, all right, because in therapy we have this thing called the anger iceberg. And so it's just an iceberg. When you think of the tip of the iceberg, it's where anger is. However, under it is all of these emotions that really are expression, like anger expression, disappointment, loneliness, hurt, sadness, all these emotions that people I work with a lot don't even know exist. They think of like happy, sad as emotion. They don't know about abandonment. They don't understand these other emotions. So this lack of communication just gets carried from one generation to the next, and there's no resolution for it. And so everyone just walks around, oh, I don't care. I'm not affectionate. I'm nonchalant. But really, we are experiencing feelings that we're hiding from everyone. And then when we keep those bottled in, it affects us mentally, physically, and emotionally.
I love that. I love that. Delonda Senior.
My daughter, my oldest daughter, just came to me last month, I think, and she said, "Mom, we like to brush things up under the rug. We don't want to deal with the issue." She's 28. I was like, "What?" She's like, "Why do y'all let things continue to happen?" I was like, "What do you mean?" And she just like literally broke it down. She said, "Instead of dealing with the issue that's bothering you, y'all don't talk about it. You suppress it, then y'all let it out at home, but you don't go to the person who's causing the problem." I said,
Wow.
"Huh, that's just how I was raised." And when she said it, and she's 28, um, two little side notes. I'm 25 with a 28. Y'all do the math. Don't worry about it. But anywho, she I said, "Oh my gosh." I said, "I really did not even identify that as a huge issue." And she said, "It's an issue, Mom, because we're not dealing with it. And all we're doing is causing this to keep on evolving in our family." And it took me back. And this was before Sister Brooks invited me to do this segment, that when she said it, I was like, "Oh my gosh, I think God has set me up." But he does. He sets me up every time. And I said, "Okay, you're right." And so then I had to take it to my mother. My daughter brought it to me. So as a daughter, I had to take it to my mother. I said, "Why don't we deal with things?" She's like, "I don't know why. We just suppress it, or not deal with it, or not call it out." And I was like, "Nah, we got to stop that." I said, "Because I don't want my children to continue to grow like this." I said, "Because I seen how it has affected the oldest one." I said, "I still have two. One is about to graduate, and the next one is about to graduate next year. And I want them to be able to talk about things that bother them." And these last two kids are really like, they really know how to get their mom. They say, Mom, we need you to listen to us." Where my oldest daughter, she would like, "Okay, I'll just go to the room because mama is busy." They're like on my head, Mom, get your phone out your hand. I was like, "I'm sorry, I'm working, I'm doing this." And it's like, "No, no, no, I need you to listen to me." And I say, "Okay, okay, okay, I'm listening." And I have to turn that phone down, or they'll tell me, "Get off the phone. with whoever you're talking to, I need you to listen to what I have to say.
Mm.
So with the youngest two, they are really coming into their own voice, and I'm teaching them that. Just speak for yourself. Take ownership for what you're doing, and not knowing that I was teaching the younger two that I didn't really instill that in the oldest one because it's such a 10-year gap between them two. So she was almost raised like an only child until they came. But that is a real thing. And I think it's a lot of families who are not identifying with that because they said, we just don't deal with it. We just gonna let it go. And
Yep.
just like the Bushes said, well, my oldest child, because I was a single parent at that time, I bought everything for her because that's how it was for me. That was affection. And and she said, Ma, all the stuff that you purchased me, I just wanted you. And that hit me. I was like, what? And so then when I finally got to that position with her, I said, baby, I have to apologize because when I had you, I was learning how to be a mom and you were my first walkthrough of all this. I said, so I have to apologize for where I'm at with you. And I said, and we're going to have to learn how to communicate. Where these last two, they came out the gate, we going to talk. And my son, he made me learn how to talk because I had to be his greatest advocate because of him being on the spectrum. My youngest one, she was the boss. My dad named her the boss of all the groups. Like she is the boss lady of the family. And she has been speaking since she was a little tight. And then other thing before I let anyone else go, my brother even pointed it out. We were at church and we were all going to the same church. So I went to hug him. He in church, you're fake. We don't even hug at home. Why are you hugging me here? Because this is my norm in church. So it helped break something. And I was like, he's right. We don't do this at home. And literally, because we just come in, say hi, keep it going, crack jokes or whatever. But when he did that in church, it really made me look. And so that's something else we start with my kids. I started just hugging them even more. Like I was like, we won't just identify this at church. We identify this at home. We will love at home. We will kiss and do whatever at home. But when he called me out in church, he's like, don't hug me. You don't even hug me at home. I was like, dude, we are in church and we are going to act like we know God and we're going to act like it's family problems. We're going to act like we love each other and like we don't have a problem. Guy was like, yeah, we calling all this out on the carpet.
Listen, I kind of feel like that might be the thing. I will tell you all, Miss Rhonda, let me tell you this right here, because while Senior comes back, let me tell you all, I heard in my spirit, communication is one of the areas that I've seen impact families. And it was communication, and however you call it, however you consider it, how we speak to each other, how we hear each other, that I've seen has actually torn families apart. But Miss Rhonda said cycle of addiction. And I think at the end of the day, this could be drug addiction. This could be alcohol addiction. This could be addiction to the television. This could be addiction to the phone in this, social media era. I don't think we think about what we do and how it impacts the people that are seeing it. I appreciate you putting that, Miss Rhonda, because let me tell you why my husband's going to speak. But I will tell you one of the things that I have seen is us being able to identify where we were like, oh, we were missing that. For me, it was affection. I didn't have a lot of affection in the house, right? Like, just like you, we're not huggers. Here's the funny thing. I'm actually not a hugger. None of you should ever try to hug me. I want you to hear this. None of you should ever try to hug me. I'm not a hugger, but I over smother my child. Like my poor son, our poor son, right? Because I share him with Mr. Brooks. He to the
Thank
point
you.
where I have to stop. You're welcome. I forget that all the time, y'all. He's my baby. He's my baby until he goes south, and then he's his son. But I had realized that it was normal for him to get so many kisses and hugs and affection from me that literally, here I have other family members. Tiara, my little baby cousin, was like, you don't even hug us. You don't do any of that. And I'm like, I'm sorry. But here is this boy that is getting all these kisses. And sometimes it's too much, and he doesn't want to tell me it's too much because he knows that his mama loves. I feel like I have to say, I just need you to feel it all the time. Come on, Senior, how have you seen what have you seen impact curses? Because I want to say something else, but I don't want to take your testimony if you're going to say something.
Oh, yeah. Just the impact that I have seen is that it can shape the narrative.
Yeah.
It shapes the narrative that we think about ourselves, that we think about our particular family or group or culture, whatever it may be, because we say, well, that's just the way we do it, as everyone has said in their own way so far. And I guess for me, just my testimony, growing up without a father, because my father left before I was born. Because we don't address those things, kind of like what Delonda said, we sweep things under the rug, because we don't want to be uncomfortable confronting an issue. What we don't realize is that the ones that are dealing with an issue, they're made uncomfortable as a result of you not wanting to be uncomfortable.
Yeah.
So for me, it was always a wrestle of, I heard what my mother said, but from a male perspective, how do I treat a woman? How do I speak to a woman? How do I instill certain behaviors in my son? And because that wasn't dealt with me in that aspect, now I'm walking around with the baggage, and I'm getting into a marriage with this baggage, and I'm forcing my wife to carry this baggage, and I'm bringing it into the household, and now I have a son, and now he has to carry some baggage that he never signed up for, my wife never signed up for. So and I had to wrestle with a lot of things. I had to become uncomfortable to make everyone else comfortable. And I think that's really the thing. When we talk about these generational curses, they continue because we don't want to face them head on. So we try to go around the corner, and try to cut corners. And that leads to that behavior that Dominique first talked about when she said dealing with inmates or dealing with clients. They're sitting in her office and sitting before us because no one ever helped them to address things head on.
I appreciate you saying that. That was kind of the testimony I thought you were going to go with. It leads into the next question of why are generational curses so hard to break? One of the things that I realized is, and just to give you a little dynamic about Glenn and I, Glenn is a single child. I am the eldest of two, but I have a large family, and my family is primarily female. So we are a female-dominated family. So it's not uncommon. Okay, all right. It's not uncommon for us to be alphas because we are women, and there's more of us. So we're used to being like alpha females. I'd like to say that I have great administrative skill sets because we are alpha women. And so here I have this husband who's a single child and have never had a father. And so what happens is we were kind of like, boom, who takes reins? Because I know what was right? I knew what was right. I was perfect, right? In my head, I knew exactly what was right. Senior was feeling his way around on what he thought it should look right. And since he didn't have a dad, then in my head, it was more of a, I'll take it from here. I'll tell you what this looks like. And
disclaimer, I am an alpha.
He is an alpha. So he is literally an alpha. And he's an alpha male. So we would always in the beginning butt heads because my toxic trait, if you will, was to know what was right And his toxic trait at the time was not repeating what he knew was the generational curse of not having a man. And so it felt like we just couldn't get it right. So lo and behold, what he made a comment and he said, I had to learn to be uncomfortable to be comfortable so everyone could be comfortable. That was something we've had to partner and really remind each other in the marriage. This is uncomfortable for me. And so I need to be uncomfortable if it helps balance everyone out. But nobody wants to be uncomfortable. Nobody wants to cry in front of the therapist. Nobody wants to talk about it. Nobody wants to be seen being weak. So why exactly are generational curses so hard to break? Why is it so hard for us to say, I'll be humble and I see the problem, but I don't want to acknowledge it? Why is it so hard to break?
It's a slap in the face. It's like, how did you grow up thinking at all of this? Like, this is how you grew up. This was right. So to come into, like, I can give an example. When I was in grad school, I remember that when we chose our track, I went clinical track, and our professor said he had been in therapy for 30 years. And I was like, why? Like, I literally was just like, why would you do that to yourself? And then he had a slide up that said, you have to address your own stuff in order to be a great therapist. And he has some other stuff up there about families, growing up, dynamics. And I remember sitting in class so uncomfortable, and I felt it in my chest. I got tight, and I remember going to like the counseling center. And I was good. I just rolled in there like, oh, she's just gonna talk to me real. It's gonna be really okay. All she said was, how are you? And the floodgates came. The floodgates came, and I just started addressing a lot of stuff. And I can say that I am a great therapist because I did address my stuff. But it's hard to do that because you have to admit that that stuff is not okay, that it's negative. Another thing I had to think about was that when I admitted that I wasn't okay, I felt bad for saying that the way my mom raised me as a single mom was bad. I had to say to myself, I don't want to be like my mom, but that means I'm saying that she was a bad person. And so that also is hard when when you're trying to separate yourself from a person, you're in and of itself, it sounds like you're saying that they have their whole being is what you don't want, instead of just saying, no, the negative parts of their being are what you don't want to carry on. So it's really, it's like people, we don't want to do it because it's like, it's a slap in the face, but it's also like, I don't want to tarnish my family name by saying this person was bad, I want to be better. And I just wanted to bring this up because all of you mentioned something that was like, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And I am loud, and I am very headstrong. And I come from a family, we will argue. Like you're not going to let this get over. We will argue. I am with someone who is the total opposite. So when I got with him and then we got into like something, he would just sit quiet. And that made me mad in the beginning. Because I'm like, why are you not getting back? Like, why are we not having this dialogue? That's not dialogue. And he had to teach me how to communicate and how to comprehend. So I come from a place where arguing is communication. He comes from a place where I'm going to walk away because I don't like confrontation. We'll come back to this. And he also taught me to come back, not to say, I'm going to come back and then never do it because I'm going to avoid. So it's all like, it's so many things that are wrapped up into one with communication, with generations. And I just feel like it's hard. Like I sit with people all the time and they're like, this is hard. You don't know what it's like. And I'm like, oh, if you only knew what I know, how it's like. So it's just difficult to, and I would say this for a lot of the therapists out there, it is so much easier to confront somebody else on their stuff than to look into yourself and say that your stuff is like not in order. Your house is not in order. So it's hard because it's easier to just to project your feelings onto other people than to accept them as your own too.
Before somebody else jumps in, let me just say this, you all. Listen, that hit me home. My husband's son is very laid back, you all. Like,
now he's my son.
My husband's son, I am like you, Dominique. I can be loud unintentionally. I speak from the diaphragm, right? I'm a college cheerleader. It's what it is. And he is very, and so he has taught me to think about the way that I say or do things. And what happens is when you meet someone who doesn't, I have not subscribed to your toxic traits, they will force you to pull back because they're like, I know not what you're doing. And so my husband's son would often treat me in such a manner as if I was like, am I out of control? And at one point, I think I asked him, I was like, is it me? And he honestly answered. I was like, okay, we're doing our job, but I didn't want you to tell the truth. He said, yup, you are doing too much. And I had to go back to my husband, who at the time had been trying not to tell me for the past 20 years, yeah, you do too much. And my toxic answer was, whatever, click, I'm out. It is what it is.
And a child shall lead them.
That is so true. Like, it's so amazing that we're not even aware of, especially when you're getting married. And people have to remember this. This is really important. When you're getting married, of course, you're looking at it like, oh, I'm marrying this person, I'm marrying that. No, you're literally tying the knot, one family person of generations, and then another is literally coming together. And it's going to be like the battle of the curses. It's like, who's going to win? Who's going to outshine the other curse over the other curse? Because it's like, it's literally like a war. So anytime a couple is coming together and conjoining, they're bringing their family issues. Like, for an example, my family, we are like Dominique's family. We're confrontational. We like to argue. We like to fuss it out. We like to get it out. And then afterward, we just be like, you want to go get something to eat? We be like, all right, cool, let's go get something to eat. But that was what I grew up. That's how I grew up. In his family, it's like something traumatic could happen. And everybody's just like, and I'm literally looking like, ain't nobody gonna say nothing? Like, we just had a situation. Nobody's not gonna say nothing right now. So it's crazy because as you come together, you literally have to form like a whole new clean slate. It's like, okay, this is your family, this is my family. We don't want that. I don't want this, because it can enter our marriage. Like, I was you, Aisha, you already know, like, and Todd's just like, no, I'm not about to do this for you today. Like, I'm just not. What you mean? And you know what I mean? It's like, a fool can't argue with himself. So it's like, I mean, what is it? Only a fool can argue with himself. So I didn't consider myself to be a fool. So I learned how to shut my mouth and just, say, okay, maybe this is a little bit too much. But what's happened is I have become more of him and he's kind of become more of me. And it's just kind of like this healthy balance that we have established over the years, because when he's like this, I got to be like this. When I'm like this, he got to be like this. We can't both be up here. We can't both just be down here. So I think it's important, especially for married couples, to establish that within your union. So that was a really good point. I just wanted to say that.
Aisha, can I give my 2 cents on that, please, for a second? What Dominique said as well. It really hit home for me. Yes, my family come from a background of non-confrontational and, non-communicative, if I can say. And so basically it was just hush mouth. That hurt me in a sense, and I always speak from experience and what I've dealt with, in my life. And when you said about us, like it's a slap in the face, like, you are absolutely right. And I think that is why so many of us can't heal properly, because we don't want to. If we heal, if we say we need help with this or expose our own self, we're also exposing somebody else.
Mm.
We're shedding light on not only ourselves, but that light is also shining on somebody else that's still in darkness. We don't want to do that. We don't want to be the bad guy. I don't, that's me. I felt like at one point I was just too nice. I was overly considerate. And so a lot of things I kept to myself, different struggles, I kept to myself. Thankfully, my wife was about the only one that I was able to open up to about different things that I had been just shut up inside. I mean, can you imagine? It's like a coffin that has been shut up for so long and it's full of cobwebs, it's dusty, it's dirty. And when you find somebody that's willing to open it up with you, you've got the right one. And it just doesn't even have to be in a marriage. It can be that best friend. The Bible says, and if I go there, there's a friend that sticks closer to a brother. And I thank God I have experienced that. It's to the point where I did not want to, and I'll speak from my mom, the mother's perspective and then a father's perspective. I did not know, or I can't relate to any traits that I have possibly may have of my father because he's no longer living today. So you have some people that do not realize the curses that they may have or traits that they may have taken on because that parent is no longer there.
Mm.
So what do you do? And then you have on the flip side your mother who's actually still alive, and it's like, okay, I don't want to, especially as sons and their mothers. You know, we just don't want to be disrespectful. We want to be respectful. So I, like you said, airing out dirty laundry. I just don't want to do that. I just want the healing for me. But sometimes healing for you also can mean healing for somebody else. And because we keep it close to ourselves, nobody's getting healed. Nobody's breaking anything. And I thank God today that I'm a chain, a curse breaker, because I opened up my mouth.
I like that.
I love it.
That was
I want y'all to know, just so we're all clear, um, Todd Bush, Elder Todd Bush, is a chaplain and an elder preacher extraordinaire. Senior is a chaplain, preacher extraordinaire. So I think it's hilarious whenever I hear preachers say, when they start with, if I can go there, I want y'all to know, turn your Bibles to the book of anytime a preacher, I'm telling y'all what I know. I'm a preacher's wife. I've been a preacher's wife for over 20 years. Anytime a preacher say, if I may go there, that means you get your book out and you turn to whatever you need to turn to.
Amen.
Did I get lost? Can you all hear me?
I didn't want to
Yeah,
go.
we can hear you.
Okay,
Amen.
You look frozen, but we can hear you.
Yeah.
Oh, you're gone. Oh, she's back.
I'm back. Yeah, I'm still here. Well, listen, you don't need to see me right now because these messages is going forth. So you all keep going. Delonda, let's hear from you.
Oh,
One thing a lot of people do not like to do is say that they need help. So go to a counselor, go to therapy. I remember as a child, it's something wrong with that person. Why they up at the crazy people? And it's like, what? What did the crazy people do? There's like they done lost their mind. How did they lose their mind? As a child, you're thinking, how did this mind get lost?
how did
And
this
what
happen?
happened? And when I became an adult and I had to actually, I went to therapy as a child and didn't understand, and I just cried all the time. And I don't know if they just let me cry, but as I became an adult, I found the importance of being able to talk to someone. And if you don't have that and you don't teach your kids that, like, it's okay to talk to somebody. It's okay to go. I'm like the biggest advocate now. Go and get you some therapy. It would do you some good. Some people don't feel like that. They say, "Oh, they done lost their mind. They over there talking to they at the nut house." No, they're going to get help. And that's like a connotation that's been going on for years. And especially in the Black community, we feel like we have to
Mm-hmm.
fight it in a certain manner to make sure it's, that we got our point across. No, you don't have to hold that in. No, you just don't have to. And thank God for pastors, preachers, teachers, evangelists, missionaries, all of those. But sometimes you do really need to go and get some other outside help.
Amen.
Now, where you go to your pastor at is to make sure you stand in line with the word. If that person is talking about, well, if you jump over two fences and you do this, that's not in line with the word. But if the pastor say, nah, that sounded a little, but find someone you can relate to. Some people feel they can't find nobody they can relate to. Well, I've been to 15 therapists. Sometimes you have to really look hard in that mirror and say, is it me? Is it them or is it my family around me? And a lot of people do not want to deal with that. So I am a big advocate for therapy. Like, just go talk to somebody, get some things off the chest. My father-in-law died, and when he died, he was in the hospital. He got sick, and we didn't have a funeral. You know, he was cremated. So I was feeling a certain kind of way, and because we had he went to I forgot what it's called, but because he went through this one step, we were able to get therapy for free. So I went to go and talk to the therapist. I said, I feel like my father-in-law is not gone. And she said, how did, I told her, I said, this is my first time somebody being cremated, and I'm usually seeing a body. She said, you didn't get your closure. I said, is that what that's called? She said, you didn't get your closure. She said, we try to tell people, let people see that body for the last time and say they goodbyes. She said, you didn't get to do
Wow.
that. And I was like, I did not know that. I said, okay, so it was me. She said, no, that's a real feeling that you're dealing with. Sometimes you just need that reassurance. And then she even helped me with drawing lines in the sand. I learned how to draw lines in the sand. Like, I can't keep on going with your crazy. Your crazy is not, I said, because it started affecting me. It started making me act a certain kind of way. I said, I need to get that, I need to get that together. I need to I just can't do that no more. And so when you start drawing a line in the sand for yourself, it not only helps you, but it makes that person look like, what can I do different? And that's how you help to get some things called out or talked about. And some people really don't really realize that. Even in marriage, like you said, you're coming together. Me and my husband, it's so funny. I have 3 brothers and I'm the only daughter. My husband has 3 sisters and he's the only son. So us onlys coming together that's used to having their only way was a whole, like, it took some time to get that under. I was like, I'm you, and I came to him. I said, I am a spoiled woman. I'm coming. I am a spoiled woman, and I need to be treated accordingly. And so, not knowing that he was a spoiled man, I'm like, this is a problem. Like 2 spoiled people.
Oh
So you
God.
have to identify that as well. But I digress.
Mm.
Well, listen, I want you to know, I want to apologize to the preachers because it was not until I touched his anointed that my camera went out. So I would like to humbly apologize to Elder Bush and Elder Brooks because I've never had this happen. And it was not until I joked about the preachers that my entire camera went out. So I am not seen, but I am heard. I would like to repent publicly and apologize for what is happening. I just wanted you all to know I am yet still here. So with that being said, definitely want to bring us close to wrapping. I'm telling y'all know my camera was just fine. Y'all have never seen me do a segment where this has ever happened. And no sooner do I ever make a joke about the preachers, my camera went dark.
Well, it's fine. It's fine. We could just look at your pictures.
Thank you, Lady Bush. Thank you, Lady Bush.
You're welcome.
And,
You're welcome.
and also, if I can add, from what was said, and there was also a comment, I believe that Sarah had posted, saying that sometimes if we speak against family, it can come off as an offense, right?
Mm-hmm.
But it's really just there it is. Thank you. But it's wanting a healthy family moving forward. And as I heard the comments and I read that comment, I thought about my son. Okay. So, and I think families sometimes don't understand, because when you have a child, then everybody wants to give you parental advice.
Yes.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And not realizing they can only give you parental advice for 50% of that child. Okay. Because the other 50% comes from that other parent. Right. So, my son has a nut allergy and I don't. Okay. So I'll just say, in terms of candy, I love Snickers. Or if I get a Hershey with almonds,
Well, I know I have to get him a Hershey plain. And he can look at me and say, Dad, I can't eat that. It's going to do me harm. So this is what I want. This is the type of candy that I need for me to be happy and healthy. Not saying that candy is necessarily healthy, but please work with me on this. All right. So it's sometimes we look at our parents or our neighbors, our friends, grandparents, or whomever, and say, that's okay for you, but this is what I need. So if you get offended by what I need, I'm sorry. But this is, just look at it as though I have an allergy and I can't deal with your baggage. I can't deal with your candy, your food, or whatever. You know, because we understand allergies and we're like, okay, this person can't eat this or can't eat that. But when it comes to behaviors, then we want to get offended.
Did you
And it's
say
just,
I have an allergy to? I love this.
so it's I'm allergic to what you have. I mean,
I'm allergic.
think about it. Some people can't even wash clothes or dry clothes with certain detergents and so forth. Why? Because they're allergic. You can't wear your clothes because of an allergy. I can't read what you read because of an allergy. I can't watch what you watch because of an allergy. I'm not trying to offend you. I'm just watching out for self. And I'll say through my educational career, both being in school, teaching, through my ministerial career, and then one thing I did learn in sitting down with folks, as has been said, I even sat down in quote unquote the chair or sat down on the couch and received counseling myself.
Yeah.
So I do agree with Delonda, but I guess just want to add something to it, right? Seek outside counseling, but from a professional, licensed individual that has their name on the wall in a plaque, right, or frame, right, that has been signed off by a reputable agency that's founded by the Department of Education. And I can keep going down. Look, I don't care if they got a YouTube video. I don't care if they have a Facebook page or Instagram or anything else. It has to be professional because why? Because they've been vetted. They've been trained to help talk through these issues. I know there's been a lot of advice I've been given by non-professionals that has been good, and some has not. You know, and I think if I can, I'll just share a story real quick. This is just a fictional story, and if this hits anybody's doorstep, I'm sorry. But it's this young couple just married, and they're celebrating Thanksgiving for the first time as a married couple, and the wife said, "I want to cook Thanksgiving dinner." So the husband says, "Okay," and they're in the kitchen. He's trying to do what he can. And then he looks and he sees his wife cut the legs off the turkey. He said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Well, this helps the turkey cook better." He said, "I've never heard that. I've eaten plenty of turkeys and I've never heard that." She said, "If you don't believe me, wait till my mother comes." He waits till his mother-in-law comes. He asked her about it. She said, "Yeah, it helps the turkey cook better." He said, "I've never heard that. Where did you all get this from?" She said, "My mama showed me. Wait till your grandmother-in-law comes and she'll tell you." The grandmother-in-law gets there and he asked her the same question. And she said, "No." She said, "I just cut the legs off because I didn't have a big enough oven back in the day." So, you know, sometimes we rationalize things for it to make sense for us, right? Because we want to be included in a certain group, all right? We want to mimic certain behaviors and we never know why they're there. We never know why we're doing them. But it becomes, as we say, it becomes that curse that we've taken on. And now we're spreading it to others. You just could cut off two good legs, all right, that could have fed some folk, you know. And what if we're doing that in our own lives to other people? We're not giving them the full turkey,
Right.
but we've rationalized bad behaviors. Um,
Rationalized and repeated.
yeah, and I guess for me, when we talk about generational curses, I just think that um, I've noticed some that are in my life that I didn't want to repeat. I've noticed some in my community that I didn't want to repeat. Um, and now it's time to just put a stop to it, take the turkey out the oven, you know, and stop cooking just half, and let's get the whole message.
Wonderful. And you kind of went through, you kind of touched on a little bit of the next question with a small caveat as we start to wrap up. What steps can we take to be victorious over these curses? And honestly, are generational curses, do we need to have professional assistance? How can we be, how can we break the curses that have pretty much ordered our steps, if you will, unintentionally? And do we need professional assistance doing it?
I know for me, if someone says something, don't take offense to it, but put it up on a shelf and think about it. And after you think about it, saying, is that normal? Is that something that I should continue to do because it has happened throughout my family? And then just look and see what was repeated throughout your family. Then if you see that a repeat, go and talk to somebody. Yes, go and get professional help, like Pastor Senior said. Go and get that the person who went and got that LCSW, MM, all those acronyms behind them. Get all of that. And just sit down, and it never hurts to sit down and talk to someone about that. Even if you go to your pastor and say, hey, I just want you to pray for me because I'm going to seek help, because I just want to go and talk to somebody. But while I'm doing that, have somebody praying for you in the background. Um, if you know of anybody who may have prayer groups, say, hey, I heard a friend that had a friend that has a prayer group. Can you ask them to put me on that prayer list? Because that will help you, and God will reveal things to you as well. It's no big mistake that my 28-year-old come to me right before this segment comes up last month and talk to me about that, to say, man, there's still some stuff that we need to really break in this family. And go and get that help. And I was like, there's nothing wrong with getting help. And find someone that you're comfortable with. My kid's doctor told them yesterday, um, I moved them from a pediatrician to a regular doctor because they're getting ready for adulthood and they need that transition. And you have to teach kids how to transition to talk to a doctor, because as a parent, we can talk all their lives. But I learned with my oldest one, I didn't teach her how to talk to a doctor. So this doctor really talks to them and then he comes to me. But it's to build that relationship where they can communicate and they can say, this is what's bothering me, this is what's hurting, this is my ailment. So they was even able to talk to the doctor, and doctor said, get someone that you can click with. He said, if that doctor is not treating you like you want to, find somebody else. But you want a doctor that you can relate to and you're comfortable with. And there's nothing, and I really loved him for that. At first, I didn't like the doctor. Let me be honest, as a mama, I didn't like him because he wanted to, no, I'm not going to see your daughter. I was like, you are going to see my daughter. I found you, but he wasn't comfortable dealing with a girl. And so now that I talked to him, he said, nope, I'm going to have her go over here. And he just talked to them. He said, even for my baby girl, she had some health challenges. He taught her how to advocate for herself. He said, your mom is busy and she's doing a lot, but this is what you need to do. You got to go to the hematologist and tell them, hey, I'm still having issues and this is not working. You need to go back to the heart doctor. Hey, I'm still having issues and this is not working. He said, then you need to go and find an OBGYN that you can be comfortable with. Hey, this is not working. And just sitting there watching him teach her how to advocate for herself. And if you don't know how to advocate for yourself, ask somebody, would you go with me? Be my friend and go with me if you don't have a spouse, if you're a single, or if you're just afraid and you don't want all your family to know. Find that person you can entrust to keep your secret while you go and get the proper help you need to really heal your family. Because if you don't do it, you just create more generational issues that's going to keep on going. That does not have to be there. A lot of people feel like I just have to go to this. God doesn't love me like that. God is not man. Men would do that to you, but God said, I will make a way of escape. But until you accept it and say, Lord, I'm going to lay this at your feet. And while I lay it at your feet, I'm going to seek help. God will reveal things and bring things up that you never thought was a big issue. And you'll be like, God, I did not know that was hindering me. And even dealing with my son and being his best advocate, I always tell people I have learned because of him, of listening to other parents, even hurt kids still want that parent. Even if that parent was abusive, even if that parent mistreated them, they still want that parent because they see everybody else with this parent that's loving them. And they said, maybe they'll change just a little. Maybe I'll get a little inkling, even if it's the bad behavior that's getting me an attention. That's what some kids will do, but it's not healthy. So that's why you need the help for yourself. It's not just for you, it's for your grandbaby. It's for your great grandbaby. It's for the great great grandbaby you may never see. So get that help. Don't feel bad about it because everybody can use help and there's nothing wrong with it. And if they do think there's something wrong with it, they was never your friend and you need to recreate your circle.
Lord have mercy. I know somebody about to go next. Y'all can't see me over here, but I'm rejoicing. So y'all, until the Lord grants me back my camera, maybe one of the bushes. Dominique, what do y'all think?
I agree with everything that she said, and she made a good point. We need to seek out people to help, but I'm just going to be completely honest. Sometimes it's not always easy getting in contact with a licensed therapist. Sometimes they can make the process very difficult. I'm just keeping it real. There's times that I've tried to reach out and maybe find a therapist or someone that I can talk to, and it was just a lot of like red tape, and sometimes it can be really discouraging for someone who's especially like on the brink or the verge of just giving up altogether, and they're like, oh my goodness, I'm really trying to reach out to somebody, but it seems like nobody's making me a priority, and it just sinks back down into like this little hole. But I just want to say, even if you can't find a licensed therapist, you know, find someone who you trust. And what I mean by trust, meaning someone who is not familiar with the situation, someone who could be on the other side of the world, someone who is just a listening ear. Because what I realized is that, as a life coach, they teach us to just ask question after question. And that's only not to benefit us, but also to benefit the person that we're helping. Because some people don't realize that in their answers, they can find solace. They can find, like, oh my goodness, it's like this epiphany that they can all just have out of the blue. And that just comes from someone just asking the right questions, kind of guiding them through. And sometimes you just need someone to just kind of listen to you, vent about, my family this, and then someone who's not going to be biased and judge you based off of, oh no, you can't talk about your mom, or oh no, you can't talk about your dad. You got to be respectful. You need someone that's just gonna pretty much take them out of that character, your brother, your sister, whoever that may be an issue, or your entire family. You need someone to identify them as people, not family, because we get so caught up with, oh, that's your family. You're not supposed to talk about your family like that. But at the end of the day, it's just another person. We just so happen to be related. But this is a person that I have an issue with, and it's causing me harm, and it's causing me not to grow. So you want to find someone that will understand that concept. And when you find someone that will understand that, you are truly blessed, because that person is actually giving you an out, and also giving you just somewhere just to breathe. Like, sometimes you just got to go somewhere and catch your breath, because sometimes it can just be so overwhelming, so heavy, depending on what the situation may be. And like my husband said, they used to say closed mouths don't get fed. Well, that goes towards your personal growth. That also goes towards you breaking generational curses. Because a lot of the time, the curse breaker is usually the one that does this, the one that's just like blah 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 blah. But it has to be in an effective way. Just don't go around telling your business, but you have to do it in a way of, listen, I need help. I'm reaching out. This is a problem. I don't want this to continue on during my life. I want to be able to grow and move from this. I don't want this to follow me. So, you just got to find someone who is willing and accepting to your process. And, it can be difficult at times because people don't make themselves available as they used to. But you just have to pray and ask God to bring you somebody that will just be there, be that listening ear for you. And, hopefully it can get you out of the rut. But always remember that as the curse breaker, you're the one that's going to go through most of the problems. You're the one that's going to go through the hell. You're the one that the enemy is going to fight the most, because he doesn't want you to break this curse. He wants to continue this. He's like, wait a minute, you are interrupting my plans. This is not the plan. But God said, I know the plan that I have for you. And it has nothing to do with no generational curse. So you just have to find out who you are and find out who you are in order to know this is not how I'm supposed to be living my life. I'm supposed to be moving forward. I'm supposed to be growing. I'm supposed to be going to the next level in life, not just staying put and comfortable in what's okay. No, speak out and say something. And somebody's going to reach out and grab you. So, yeah.
I'm sorry. Come on, Elder Todd.
No, I'll just say that, the first step to any type of road to recovery or deliverance, hey, I need help. Like it's already been said, you just have to first. That's like even with Alcoholics Anonymous, you have to admit you need help. And honestly, I mean, everything my wife said is just spot on. It's just like, the enemy, our adversary, he knows the plan that God has for us, for that particular one that has been chosen. And I relate myself personally to Joseph. Like, in the Bible, a lot of times we try and relate ourselves to someone in the Bible. And I found that I was the Joseph of my family. And it is so important to be able to, withstand all of that mess and chaos. And I'm just going to say to whoever's probably actually going through this, just keep going. Don't stop. Admit if you have a problem, you need help, admit that. Ultimately to God. I'm just going to say that ultimately to God, because even sometimes man will fail us. They won't be there in the midnight hour when we are just at our wits' end and don't know what to do. I myself tried to as well seek counseling, and it just did not work out. And I'm like, okay, God, do you really, want this to be? Sometimes God doesn't want us to be going through this. He's just saying, I want you to come to me. Come to me just as you are, weary, wounded, and sad as you may be. And he will give us that rest. He will give us that peace. He will give you that assurance that you need to say, hey, you're on the right track. Because a lot of time I was like, I'm going through this, I'm going through that. This is happening to me. I'm facing this position. They're talking about me. Everything just keeps seeming like it's happening to me. No, I had to change my mindset and say it's happening for me. And you have to even Joseph and myself, we have to change that mindset. And a lot of times you may not even be following in that trait or that bad habit or walking in that curse that your mom or daddy or great grandparents, whoever went through. It's just because you are just, I don't want to say at the wrong place at the wrong time, but you're at the right place at the right time. And the enemy knows that he's going to continue to throw everything he can at you. But if you keep your heart and your mind guarded, he can't touch that. You make yourself bulletproof when you don't give the enemy your mind. because he wants to attack our thoughts. Like, no, you can't stop doing this. You can't stop watching pornography. No, you can't stop being a womanizer. I mean, keep it real. A lot of issues that people struggle with and just cannot find a resolution, cannot find a solution in our suffering behind closed doors because they don't want to be embarrassed. Again, we have to admit we need help. And a lot of in the scripture, I'll leave with you, say, confess your faults one to another. Why did it say that? Why do I got to confess? So that not only I can be healed, but that other person can be healed as well. We are overcome by the word of our testimony. It is a testimony. And that is why I cannot shut up my mouth of what I grew up under, of what happened to me. I have to set myself free. Regardless if it's going to hurt somebody else, they're going to get healing as well. If they will at first admit, you know what, I messed up, I need that help as well. Just if they're going through it still at that time. But again, just admitting I need help, you cannot do it by yourself. And a lot of time, and I'll say this, that I learned to say this, and I learned from this awesome woman of God. She said, perfect prayer. God, I can't, but you can. God, I can't, but you can. And when you get into that mindset, you know what? I can't do it on strength. I need somebody more powerful than the big bad wolf. I need somebody more powerful, somebody that created the universe, the heavens and there. I need somebody like that on my side. Yeah, it's good to have your friends, homies, or whoever, counselor, that's all well and good. But I need somebody that is able to set me free and who actually gave his life. Now, when you can find somebody that gave their life for you, then you go to them. But I don't know nobody that has given their life for me so that I can be free.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you.
Amen.
Amen. You did not hear me cackle. He said, if you can find somebody that gave their life for you,
let me know.
He said, you go to them. Praise God. Praise God. Listen, you all, I have appreciated, I have enjoyed everything you all have said, because let me tell you something. I feel like if we needed to open up our book of past, right? Like our past, that would be like opening up Pandora's box. And so I really kind of wanted to just remind everyone that we really weren't here looking to necessarily talk about our generational curses as much as either how we've gotten over or how you could get over. Senior, before I move to Miss Dominique, did you have anything or was that in your previous answer?
No, just let me say, I'm born and raised Chicago. I'm completely biased. Everything in the world at Chicago to me is great. I'm gonna be biased all day. But if I could say this within the context of what we're saying, I eventually had to leave Chicago to grow, to mature, to experience. I couldn't stay where I was. And I'm not saying that where I was necessarily a curse, but a transition had to take place. So when we're talking about these generational curses, sometimes if we're staying in place, we're continuing the cycle. And when you look at the gap of the life you want and the life you're living, it's the choices you're making. So whether we continue a curse or break a curse, it's going to depend on the choices that we make. So just wanted to say that.
I appreciate that. I appreciate you. I
appreciate you.
I appreciate you. I want to thank each and every one of you all. If I may, I want to call on the great Dominique Roberts, licensed social work and healer extraordinaire. And listen, we appreciate you. We are transparent on everything that we do. Whoever the Facebook user is, I would have to look and see who you guys are, but to go back to what I said, we're not here to air anyone's dirty laundry. We are here. That is Miss Shayla. Shout out to Shayla Jones. That's Shayla Jones. So we are not here to air anyone's dirty laundry. What we want for you all is we want you to be healed, because if I can be honest, I know you all look at me, and I know you're not physically looking at me now, but when you Shayla wants to know why I'm not on camera. I am not on camera because I made a joke about the two preachers, and the Lord removed my image. I put my mouth on his anointed. I publicly repented. But Shayla, that is why I'm not on camera. It is just not working as you. Well, praise God. My repent. This is why we repent. This is why we repent, you all. I don't know about y'all, but I might give a shout right now. This is why we repent.
That's what happened when you repent.
This is Shayla. I made a joke about the two preachers, Elder Brooks and Elder Bush as preachers. And the Lord said, shut thy mouth. And y'all don't look upon her. Y'all will not look upon her. And took my camera smooth out. So I have repented. I am thankful and grateful unto God for giving me the gift of focus again.
He's listening.
He is listening. He's listening. He's listening. But you all, we are so thankful and grateful that you all really are here, and that you all really did come to give us some of your insight. I'm going to turn this over to Miss Dominique because I want her to give us some words of wisdom. But I really hope that you all share this feed, you guys. And I've put up a couple banners when I was on timeout. And I want you all to know that if you all are in a generational curse that looks anything like abuse, whether it's domestic violence, whether it is sexual abuse, I am going to re-put those numbers back on. We want you to be helped. We want you to be healed, and we want you to be encouraged, because the reality, you all, is at the end of the day, every knee shall bow and every tongue shall confess. And until we get to that particular day, we got to keep stepping and striving towards healing. So I really do all want to thank you for coming in and tapping in and giving us your insight. Miss Dominique, I want you to give us some words of wisdom, something that the people can just walk away with. And again, you all, while she's speaking, please take note. Take note on everything that you've heard. I'm going to put some numbers at the bottom.
I just want everyone to remember that it is very difficult, yes, to break the curse, to work on yourself, but it is the other side of it is so necessary. And you're never done with working on yourself. You can, and I fully support this. Of course, I support it. Go to therapy. Please go talk to someone that's licensed and a professional. It is a difficult process sometimes. I'm not going to lie, to find a therapist. Sometimes they don't respond. But I think of it, I like to eat. I'm a foodie. And when Popeye's chicken sandwich came out, I didn't give up on Popeye's because their chicken sandwich was mediocre. So if I love their chicken, but they gave me something that wasn't the greatest with the chicken sandwich, that means I'm still gonna go because I'm gonna support Popeyes. Kind of that. If your therapy, if you're finding it difficult to find a therapist, keep going, because there is one out there. And the biggest challenge I got was from an old supervisor. Love this woman, taught me everything I know today. I remember I was going through something personally, and I have this, full disclosure, I have an issue with men. And I remember she was like, you need to see a man. I was like, no, I'm not. I need to only sit with a woman that's sitting across from me because she'll understand. Found a man, called, hung up. He didn't, and he called back like, are you okay? Do you need therapy? And I was like, no, I'm trying not to get it with the man. He was like, okay, come see me. And when I went to see him, again, bawling. That's all he got to do is ask me one question. I'll start all the tears. But he taught me everything I needed to do, to know, and to reflect differently about what I had an issue with. If you have an issue with something, challenge yourself to sit across from someone that permeates something that you have an issue with. Whether it be, like, a lot of people I know, I can't deal with older women because of my mom. Go see an older woman, because you need to work out that issue within therapy to then work it out in your life. Therapy is the safe space where you can work out all of your issues, all of your concerns. It is literally the place that you don't have to have a trauma or something to, you can just like, I need somebody to talk to. It is your space to be you authentically 100%. This person doesn't know you outside of this, so you don't have to feign your personality. You don't have to feign anything that you would have to do with the outside world. Friends are great, but they're always going to go on your side. You know your friends are always going to tell you like, oh yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right. Even when they're challenging you, they're not challenging like a therapist would. The way I challenge people, they don't come back the next week. And then they come back and they're like, why did you do that? It's because we're breaking these curses. We're breaking these barriers that have led you to where you are today. It is okay. I still seek therapy. I think it's great. All therapists have therapists. Maybe not, but people like go out there and get therapy, because one of the best things I did is become a therapist. And one of the best things I can tell you to do is to seek help from people who know what they're talking about and who will challenge you. And don't be afraid to be challenged. If you feel like your therapist is going along with everything you're saying, find another therapist. You should be walking away from therapy with like icky feelings, like, oh, I don't know, confusion. You should be wanting to journal about it, reflect on it, think about it, because that is when you start to grow. We get out of our comfort zone and into our challenge zones. And that is a therapy that you should be seeking. And I really challenge everyone to just give it a try and do not give up, because it is hard. It is truly hard. But please just continue. And I would also add, in addition to Psychology Today, call your insurance company. If you do have insurance, call your insurance companies and ask for people that are in your area. And because of COVID, a lot of people are still doing virtual. So you can do it on your lunch break. You can do it while you're sitting in the car after work. You could do it before work. There's so much more accessibility to therapy now. Please just give it a chance, because it will break these curses that have led us for generations and generations.
I love it. I love you. That, if you all listen, I feel like you all have had the chance to literally walk away with so much knowledge. I don't know how to impart this into you all, but at the end of the day, we are going to need healing, because at some point you're going to come up, you're going to wake up and you're going to realize that something is not right and I need to do something different. And you don't believe me, keep living. That's what the seniors will say, keep living, because what you'll realize is what was cool at 20 is not cool at 25, which is never cool by the time you hit 40. And if the Lord continues to live until 80, you'll realize some of those decisions probably could have been made differently. So I want you all to take each and every lesson that you've heard, the conversations, the wisdom. I do not want you all to leave and let that just go out void. I want you all to come back again and again and replay this message and replay it with family members. And I would admonish you all to just talk about what your curse is. So we're asking you to continue to pray for us as we pray for you. We thank you from Daughters of Esther, and we are so glad to have seen you here. And until our next segment, God bless you all. Bye-bye.